Hi, this is Dan Maher. Welcome to Math 98. Here, after you get into my math labs and get logged in, you should have a screen that looks something like this. This is the instructor version, so I have a few things on here that you won't see. But I want to um, talk about some important parts of the interface to make sure you know where we're at in course. And this calendar is going to be very crucial, especially if you want to plan to see some things. What what doesn't show up, you'll see. Like if you want to see what work you're going to do or need to work, you can hit this homework button, and pretty much the whole course is here. We're going to do a chapter one review. There's an intro, which you probably may have done already, but um, which talks about the course a little bit. And this video will correspond with that assignment in a way too. But also the intro has how do I put in answers, how to use the tools that are part of this platform. But you can see all these assignments, and we're going to start out with the chapter one review. I'll give you a few days with that assignment, and then we're going to do some quizzes. But you're not seeing the quizzes because they are only opened up at a certain time and then close, and I'll give you access to those quizzes. And so there's going to be a quiz associated with each one of these reviews, but they don't show here is what I want to kind of focus in on right now. And then it goes on, and here are the due dates for all these assignments, so you can kind of get a calendar idea or time frame on what's going to happen in this course as far as homework, because it's all been pre-assigned, and all I did was everything's assigned already. I just put due dates on here to give you an idea when you should be done with these assignments. I do let you go work after the due date. You don't lose any points for going after the due date, but the due dates will make sure that you are ready for the tests, which are a lot more important for your grading and so on. So this face here, so if I go to quizzes and tests, it doesn't show anything because there's nothing assigned yet. And then you can look at your grade book and so on, and you can see where you're at with things that you've done already. You know, it shows in here we're going to have 4 tests, maybe 5 tests, and we're going to have 6 quizzes. And then there's 33 homework assignments, and that's pretty much all the work you're going to do for this quarter. Let's go back to this home right here, and just some things that are on here. It shows you what's coming up next. If there was actually a quiz assigned at that point, you'd see it here, but they don't. I don't give you access to the quizzes until they're actually it's time you can do it, and then I assign them. So right now you can work ahead. I wouldn't get too far ahead of your testing. It probably wouldn't be very productive. It shows you how much time you've spent in. You can view all the assignments again. If I click that, I'm going back to that kind of homework and test deal, but all it shows is homeworks. So course home here. So how do I plan out my my course, right? Or how you're going to work and interface with this? Well, this calendar view comes up with a week that you're in, but I can move around in that, so I can go to next week and kind of scroll ahead. So I can look at a week at a time in here, and today I'm recording this on a Wednesday. It tells me that the intro assignment and my chapter 1 review is due. And then this marker here tomorrow, based on when I'm recording this, is the quiz for chapter 1 is going to be available. And notice that it just says not available yet. Okay. If I go to here, it says that the chapter 2 review is due on Saturday, and then on Sunday the quiz is going to be available. So we're really going through this quickly. I know that these assignments are a lot longer than what you typically will do when we get into new material. And then, so you're going to have a couple days to work on an assignment, and then you're going to have a couple days of working on the quiz. And that becomes available. Now here on Wednesday the 11th, it says the Chapter 3 review work assignment is due, but also the quiz is due on that day. So in other words, what I'm going to do is open up that quiz. You're going to have about a week to do that quiz in. But once that's due, the quizzes and tests, I do not allow you to work past due dates on those things. You're going to have a window of time to take your quizzes in this case. And then later on when we do tests, when we talk about proctoring, which I'll talk to a little bit more in detail, I'm going to make an assignment basically in this course where you're going to make arrangements and tell me who you're going to use for your proctoring for your chapter tests and stuff, so we get that prearranged. So when we get to the end of chapter 4, where you have to have a proctored test or a supervised test where you just use scratch paper and a calculator, and then that, those tests are part of 60% of your quarter grade. But main thing right now, you can see how this calendar works. So even though those on the homework and test section or assignment section, you don't see quizzes or anything else because they're not due or really haven't been assigned yet. But I can look ahead when these assignments going to happen. So on the 5th, this quiz is going to become available. And what I do with this quiz is I'll give you 3 attempts, so you can basically do your assignment. And the goal on all your homework should be that you get 100% on that. If you get any questions wrong, you can redo a similar one. Hopefully take some time, figure out what you did wrong, and then redo it. And make sure you succeed on all the questions, and then I take the quiz. And since you get multiple attempts at the quiz, I would say take the first quiz, especially that first one, say, if I was taking this as a chapter test, how would I do? In other words, with just scratch paper and a calculator, I'm going to take this quiz, I'm going to get a good idea where I stand as far as being able to perform on this material in an unassisted way, right? Now you might get a poor grade on that, like you only get a 50%. Well, you can review your quiz and find out what you got wrong, and that'll cue up and say, well, I seem to get these right on homework, but you didn't think about what you may have been using for extra help for each part. And usually what I find with most students is that it's just a little piece of information you got wrong, or you're just missing a little bit of information to finish that. And then when you're doing homework, or you can have assistance while you're doing that, either through the computer or working with somebody else, or the other resources you can use where somebody's helping you, you don't realize how much help you're getting a lot of times. So this is a good way to find out if you're really prepared for a test. So you take that quiz first time, you get a 50% or something. Well, you could concentrate on the ones you got wrong, figure out what you did wrong, and then you can take the quiz again. And I would, to see how well you filled in that information, you can take that quiz, and then you can take it a third time. And it'll tell you when you're taking the quizzes how many attempts you'll have. And what goes in your grade book is the best score out of the amount of attempts. So if you get 3 attempts, it'll only take the best score out of that and use that. So what I'm saying is you don't wait thinking, I'm not ready to take that first quiz because I'm not real firm on some material. But just go ahead and do that, and it can help you get ready by using the score and looking at what you got wrong. So knowing when these things are going to come up and when they're going to be available, and also when they're due, the only place you really have an easy way to look at that is on this calendar, going back to that. So basically here in a week, we're going to finish all the review. 2 weeks actually, about a week and a half. in class time. And then we're going to start on section 1 of chapter 4. And then that'll be typically, at that point, you'll probably see assignments due all the time. And I don't know where I skipped that. Okay, so that one's due the 14th, the 15th. And what I did is created a whole bunch of assignments that are available there. And then section 3, I'm going to have to check that, make sure I got section 2 in there. I'll check as we're moving along here in the course too. But you'll see probably something due every day. And I can tell probably my days of the weeks are messed up here. So I'll fix that. So we'll have, here's section 7 and so on. And then we're going to hit the end of the chapter here on chapter 4. The dates on this I'm probably going to move a little bit looking at the calendar. And then we have a quiz. Again, on the end of the chapter I'll have a quiz. And that's the same kind of thing you did in the review quizzes, where I'm going to give you multiple attempts. So you're going to have some days that's open. And then on Tuesday, you had a couple days in the weekend, in this case, to get your 3 attempts in, and then it's due. And then the next day after that, I'm going to give a chapter test. And this is where the proctored things in here, the test portion, part of your grade book that are called tests. So looks like about February 1st, right around there, we're going to have our first proctored exam. What I'll probably do, I have in Wenatchee Hall, 2210 is my other class. I teach a 93 class at 8 o'clock. There is another class that comes in at 9 o'clock. So I'll probably proctor a session at 7 o'clock on that day. But we'll work that out. I'll try to make sure that I have some time in a morning session to proctor exams for you guys. And then also then there's the proctoring service on Wenatchee campus is available usually in the afternoons. You need to give them a week notice to schedule in that test. And the proctoring service on the Wenatchee campus is approved by me. There's also a testing service in OMAC campus. So if you can arrange, make sure you can arrange with them in the proper amount of time to make sure that you have a session that's proctored. That's approved. And if you're in a rural area or a different area that having access to either one of those campuses is a problem. So I've used librarians in different areas. I can also use other campuses have proctoring services available. So if you're in a Yakima area or something like that, there's a community college that we can set up proctoring to. But that needs to be prearranged. So, part of that, one of these first assignments you have is for you to determine where you're going to take these proctored tests. So this calendar is very useful, and you should pay attention to this. There's also the announcements here. I'm gonna put up announcements in here. Watch the dates here. The date on this is wrong. I'm kind of recycling announcements from this class before, so I'll just push these up to the top as they become available. And these videos will be in the content of this plus the announcement. Every new announcement I make in this platform will email to the email address that you use when you registered on My Math Labs. So make sure that you check that email address regularly. One of the other parts, and I'll stop here with this video, but we'll talk about go through the syllabus more directly to make sure you got all the right information. So good luck. I do email. You'll have my cell phone number, which is 509-551-6750 if you're having an immediate problem. But a lot of the day-to-day questions, I think if you use this platform well, you'll get good information to how to do the assignment you're facing, and they give a lot of techniques. There's animations and little videos to explain, and a lot of different ways. If you use your online book, we could talk about that a little bit too. Is if I go to the online book, like when I'm in chapter 4, I can bring that up, and I like this, and it really depends on what kind of computer access you have. Is a big deal too. But what's really nice about this online book is that, and I do recommend that you use the book, either the paper one or the online one, is that when I'm looking at, let's say where we're going to start on new material with polynomials, I have this basically a real copy of the, it's exactly the same as your paper book, unless you got an older version of the paper. And I have access to move around pretty well. So like if I'm in section 4.1, these numbers really mean something. They mean something in your review questions too. So like when you're doing chapter 1, 2, and 3 reviews, for section 3 in chapter 1, it'd be 1.3.14 means question number 14 out of that section, chapter 1, section 3, question number 14 out of a bank of questions. So, but when I'm in here, using this interface here, it's giving me the information. Just some kind of bullet points on in math books, they don't like to waste space and ink, and they're pretty efficient kind of people. So when they actually put a box around something and put coloring and stuff like that, it's a big deal. And it's not exactly like reading a novel, but you should try to read all this stuff. They're trying to say, and you're really going to have to get into the algebraic way of looking at things, because you're going to run into this all the time, where they're going to say for any number A and positive integers, positive means that it has to be greater than 0. M and N integers are 0, 1, 2, 3, and their opposites are additive, inverse, -1, -2, 3 to infinities, right? Well, they're going to give us a rule basically in an algebraic way, which you get used to this. You can get the communication of algebra, which is a language in itself, rather than reading all this text, which is good to do to make sure you understand. But I can see just from this formula, in a sense, it's telling me that when I have this situation, I can end up with this situation, and I can use that to my advantage. But also they have this place here where you can, like when you're reading this, and I recommend that you read the section and then do the homework, is a good plan. That's the way you do it in a traditional classroom. There's a reason for that. You'll actually save time rather than just jumping into material, making a lot of mistakes, having to redo it. And I worry about that. If you are making a lot of mistakes in your homework, it means that you're really practicing doing it wrong quite a bit. And when you get under pressure, like for a test, that type of problems you had a lot of problems with, if you did it like 7 times and 6 of them you got it wrong, and then you finally got it on the 7th time you got it right, I'd still cue that up and say, boy, there was some big issues with that type of problem, and you just practice it 6 times doing it the wrong way, which could come back and haunt you in a test. Well, in this process, I can cut down the amount of errors that maybe I'll do at the beginning of an assignment by reading through this, making sure I understand the principles ideas behind what they're doing, the shortcut of being able to work with exponents. They're showing here any solutions. These are really important. These cautions are really common errors that occur. I see these all the time when I'm correcting papers. So it isn't like study and do this. Look out for this. This is very easy to fall into a pattern of that. And these little red lines for reasons and stuff, it's going to bring up words that we should know really well, like associative, commutative, and distributive is another big property that we'll use a lot of, and so on. And then as I'm scrolling through this stuff, here's another triad example. If I click this, it would pop up another window with a problem just like your homework. You're taking a little bit of time to pull up. There we go. So it'll just have like an assignment I can do and do that. And while I'm in this actual assignment, this is like your homework, you have these things that are available to work with, like help me solve this, view an example. It basically takes you through an example explaining what it's doing and let you step through that and so on. Sometimes there's other help here that's available too. And ask the instructor is what I'd like you to do the last time and in a homework, and we'll go back to that a little bit. So I'm trying to pull up some of the other possible tools that can come up. Sometimes you'll have an animation available or a little video basically explaining the process they just went through. There's another example. You probably pulled up. Let's go to polynomials. I bet you there's something there. As I page through this, here we go. So in this case, I have an animation. I'm not sure if I got set up so you'll hear the sound. But basically what it'll do is bring up a...
Simplify the expression. The first step is to sort the terms.
Is a way, and it'll explain this whole thing, gives you nice graphics, all these kinds of things. I would very seldom skip these things. This is a very good explanation. Probably, they don't do all the ums and ahs and all the stuff that I do, and the wandering around I do when I'm talking sometimes. But so it's very clear, and hopefully, and you're going to hit the things that are going to help you learn. One is that it's good to read. You get a visual. This gives you pictures and motion. So you're getting a better visual, and also you can get the audio, which is a different part of your brain starts working. If you get stuck a lot of times, and especially when you get into word problems, one of the techniques is to read it out loud. And it isn't that you're trying to practice reading like you did in grade school. It's when you actually read a problem, there's a different part of your brain works on that. And you'll pick up material, needed things from that. Actually listening to yourself read it, which is a very good technique too. So, well, anyhow, that's a tool that's in your online, which is very nice. And I'll probably get a little long on this recording. So basically, you want to work on this interface in a lot of different ways. That online book has some real value. If you have a small computer or a laptop, you can bring up this online book and go through the section that you're going to do the homework on. Go through this just like you would on the paper, and then you could have the paper book open while you're working on your deal. But having the online gives you access to these kinds of tools that are very useful. And take full advantage of the tools that are here, especially when you don't have a classroom environment to work in.